Bloody g'day, how are ya? Shelter FootyCast is back. It is the Shelter FootyCast. The Shelter SportCast was over summer. Yes, we're in summer still, but this is the Shelter FootyCast. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield with you. We're bloody back, Skeet. How are you, mate?
The band is back. It's nice to be back. We've had a break, let's be honest. My first week in the saddle at work, and it has been very,
How have you gone?
No good. No, that's shite. How hard is it to get up and actually... well, you clearly haven't done much of that. I'm getting prepared for the week of work, given the terry toweling hat.
Mate, Shelter.
Yeah, no, fair call. Cool.
If you don't know what Skeet's talking about, jump onto our YouTube channel. Just see what I'm wearing today. See if you're impressed or unimpressed. And Skeet, as usual, you're looking $1 million.
Well,
mate.
I did some radio this morning. Had 2 weeks on the Gold Coast. I actually went up there to see family, to scatter my dad's ashes, which was a nice moment for us. But also to go to a big race day, which was the Magic Millions, which was due to be held last Saturday. We went there, two races in.
How'd you go?
Washed out. And then it's being run today. So, we still got on the gas and
No doubt.
had 110 shelters and went on to the casino and then stumbled home. So... basically, this is just a thawing out period after a couple of weeks up there.
And you wonder why it's been a hard week back at work for you, mate. You can find us on socials. If you don't follow us, please do. Shelter FootyCast on Instagram. FootyCast at shelterbrewing.com.au. We want to hear from you this year. You can win lots of prizes. We've got slabs of beer to give it away. Shelter boys are putting on accommodation down south. They don't know that, but they will be. FootyCast at shelterbrewing.com.au is our email. You can watch us as a YouTube show if you are listening to us. And if you're watching us, you can turn YouTube off and listen to us as a podcast. It is Shelter's Summer of Sour this summer.
Summer of Sour.
Now, would you like me to explain that to you? Right here.
Summer of Sour.
These are actually cold. These are straight out of the fridge, these Shelters.
Summer of Sour sounds like Michael Clark and Carl Stefanovic in the park the other night.
Shelter
Anyway.
are challenging people to push their beer boundaries, Skeet. Not Carl and Clarky, to sip on a sour, right? The perfect summer drop, refreshing, crisp, crushable. Now, if you don't want to hear me bang on about a beer that you may or may not like, do you drink sours? Do you?
I don't know what sour means.
Okay, perfect. So that's why it's the summer of sour. We're going to get you into it.
Yeah.
We're challenging people just to challenge what you're doing with beer, right? Maybe just a nice little change up, not just a nice little refreshing change up. So if you do that, there's a competition going on at the moment with Shelter, and There's a very, very nice prize pool. Now, you can win a Mini Mel surfboard, a custom one of those. You can win a $600 exclusive escape voucher. You can win beer. You can win merch. But what I want to tell you can win, and I think you might be excited about this, you can win a Victor lawnmower. Yes, that's right, Skate. I can hear.
Have you seen these hands? They have not done manual labour in almost 53 years. My wife gets the leaves out of the gutters. I hold the ladder. This is not a prize for me.
It absolutely is. Shelter's Summer of Sour. We're going to get a sour into you, and we're going to get a review from Mark Reddings on the show next week after he has a sour over the weekend. Shelter, born and brewed in Busselton. That's what we're here for. The FootyCast, Shelter's FootyCast. It's been a bit of a break. We've had about 5 weeks off, Skeet. You said you've been on the Gold Coast losing money on the punt. I did 3 weddings in 10 days.
You were like the wedding singer. I saw photos around social media and the newspaper, and there's Scully just standing at the back sort of like...
I reckon I was probably last invited to all 3 of them as well. It was good, though. I flew all around Australia, and it was great to see all my mates, and we haven't been able to do that for a long time, have we?
No, it's been nice to... And obviously you've got Tommy Cole as one example, getting married.
That was a very nice wedding.
Yeah, so you've done it all.
You know what they served at Tommy Cole's wedding? Do you know what beers they served?
Really?
Absolutely.
Did you have any little influence on that?
No, I didn't. But where it was held was a little bit of an alignment with the Shelter Brewing Co. down in Busselton. So
nice work.
Made for a very nice wedding, all very sober, in fact. So that's our break done and dusted. Let's get into sport. What's going on? Everyone's flying in the AFL. You'd be pumping up on the radio at the moment.
Well, it is. It's January. It's mid-Jan. Players have come back. They've all put the hard yards in.
Is there anyone? Have you heard any rumours of any clubs struggling?
Yeah.
They've come back unfit. No one's breaking any records. I haven't.
Put it this way. Let's start locally because, I mean, even this time last year, I remember talking to people at the Eagles and they thought they had their list in pretty good health. Right. We heard that big names were going okay, but this year. Again, touch wood for them, West Coast specifically because of the injuries they had last year. It sounds like some of their senior players, and that's that's who I think we have to focus on initially. Is getting the likes of Gov, who's looking $1 million apparently,
within
best
inch of his
career.
life. It's on the back page of the West today, promoting his own little
brand.
ownership in a brand.
Exactly. Guys like Luke Shuey. Now, you'll know more about this than me, but Shuey, Shee, Yo, all on top of the ground, and Oscar Allen.
Gaff. I think Gaff is one that slides under the radar. So my time with the West Coast Eagles, he's always been a very good runner. But when Gaffy has big years, he pushes out a 2K time trial pretty close to 6 minutes. He never falls back to like 6:20. So my best ever that I did was like 6:17. So like
that's going well.
That's quick. But Gaffy he's just a solid, consistent guy, right? But if he goes to sort of 6:15, it means he's not like as fit as he should be. He did like a 6:05, I think, Gaffy, and that's really quick for Gaffy. Older player. Hearn reportedly is the most consistent player in the life of the AFL. He's fine. Like you said, Shuey uninjured at this stage. He had a little calf complaint over the break. But Elliot Yeo, I saw him train. He looks explosive. I think they'll trial him off half back. If you remember 2015, he was a backman. He was a pure backman. I think I saw enough at the back end of last year for Elliot Yeo where they pushed him into the back line that to get his confidence up and going, he may move into a full-time midfield role because, he's won 2 best and fairest doing that. But I think they could trial him off the back line this year, Elliot Yeo. Yeah,
well, that's no huge surprise. And there's some talk about even Luke Shuey just changing up his role as well. So there's a couple of players there. I suppose the fitness, the other one that we have to touch on is we talked about the guys that are going really well, but Nick Nat's ongoing battles with his knee and getting himself in the right shape. He's wrong side of 30. Any concerns as to whether he'll be able to recapture or get back to the health that will give him his best look at footy?
I'm a big believer in the West Coast Eagles making finals this year. I'm quite high on. I think they'll finish anywhere from 5th through to 8th. But the big question mark I have is their ruck department, because traditionally they've been very strong as a ruck unit. Coincidentally, they haven't been the greatest at connecting with that dominance in the ruck, but they have won a lot of hit-outs. They've had Natanui, they've had Lycett, they've had Vardy, they've had all these guys, Tom Hickey, across the time. I think that'll be one area where it really changes the way they play. They're not going to be dominant in ruck hit-outs. They're just going to have to compete. But I don't... Like, it is an issue, but you've seen sides over the last 5 years without a dominant ruckman finding a way. I mean, you look at the grand final last year. There's no disrespect to Tom Hickey, but Sydney don't have a very dominant ruckman, but he competed on the ground when it hit the ground. And Geelong, who win the flag, I mean, Reece Stanley and co, they're not world-renowned ruckmen, are they?
They get around the ground very well.
Yeah, so I think it's okay for West Coast that they're going to have maybe some ruck issues. I don't know how fit Nick Nat is. Obviously you'd like to see him play really well, but he's getting older and he has a big frame, a big tank. Yeah,
Fijian frame, and let's not beat around the bush. He's got the body frame that it's hard to. I'm assuming as you get older to shed those kilos. I mean, it's just a given. But who is number 2? Because Bailey Williams has done that role.
Yep. I'm not sure he's not a ruckman. No. He's a forward trying his ply in the ruck, but he's not a ruckman.
No. So they've got a question or two there. But in general, West Coast going okay.
I've heard some good things about Harry Barnett. He's Scott Lycett. He's literally Scott Lycett, just younger. A South Australian kid. They drafted their 3rd pick in the draft. Heard some really good things, but he's very raw. He's an 18, 19-year-old. So I don't know if they'll get that done. While we stay on West Coast for one more, another question is, do they play the kids early? Do they play Campbell Chesser, who is a kid, their first draft pick from the year before?
Yep. Ruben Gimby. Gimby looks size-wise, wow.
Yeah, he does. And Elijah Hewitt as well. Like that would be the 3. Do they roll straight in round 1 and play?
I've got no issue if they get through the pre-season and put a couple of runs on the board. I like getting at least one of them into the mix early. I've got no issue with that at all.
You listen to them off the top, though. Elliot Yeo wasn't an every-week starter last year. Dom Sheed, we didn't see him at all. Tom Cole is underrated, missing from that side. We didn't see him at all. Oscar Allen, we didn't see him at all. So there's 4 or 5 guys coming back into this team. There's going to be competition for spots, which there wasn't last year at West Coast. So I don't know if there is room, if they have to make room. You could see some senior guys missing. They added Jaden Hunt. I think he'll probably be a walk-up start to start the season as long as his pre-season goes well. I think you could see a couple of senior guys sitting on the sideline round one if Adam Simpson decides to make a bit of a statement for West Coast.
Yeah, it all depends on how these kids go between now and mid-March, which is when I think Eagle supporters are expecting there to be an element of regeneration with getting those kids if they're fit and ready to go. I think you'd like to have an early look at them under the right circumstances.
I like where we're at here on the FootyCast, the Shelter FootyCast. We're doing the West Australian little preview here. Let's get into Fremantle.
Yep.
I haven't heard a lot out of Fremantle this year, and I think that's a very good thing. You haven't heard scandals. You haven't heard injury. You haven't heard that I haven't heard a lot that they're flying. It's been a very much. I think they're ticking a lot of boxes. What do you think?
Yeah, look, we're trying to work out what has gone wrong or might have been like a roadblock, and the only thing I can think of is the Woodside sponsorship thing, which is really not footy related. Yeah. And I think there's been enough pushback to say, well, the club's getting support for it. So that, to me, outside of that, there haven't been Nat Fyfe. I know it's January, but he's come back and talking to a couple of the guys at a function last night. He's come back in really good health.
Well, that is. I mean, he hasn't done that the last few years. He's been coming off surgery. He's come off missing time. He's been able to put a full preseason together. That's a big thing for Nat Fyfe.
Absolutely. And so when you add that, I mean, let's be honest. We talked about this. They have lost players. They've lost some important players, which are going to be difficult to replace. Obviously, Luke Jackson comes into the mix. Jager O'Meara as a couple of first-choice players. But you're right, they're going well. In fact, I believe little Birdie told me yesterday they had their Fremantle run down at Fremantle Oval. Now, during your pre-season or in-season, I know yoga's been used and Pilates, jiu-jitsu. I've been told the boys are doing a bit of jiu-jitsu. Is that is that anything that might surprise you?
Well, that excites me that they're doing jiu-jitsu. Like we had MMA trainers in 2018. Which ended quite well for us, where we did a lot of grappling, so underhooks and different holds and way to dominate people on the ground, that sort of stuff. It's a physical thing, jiu-jitsu. But if they're doing like full-blown wrestling and grappling, and it could be, I reckon Justin Longmuir, although he wasn't there in 2018, we were doing it when he was still at the footy club.
It could be his
that.
influence, you reckon?
I reckon he might have just dragged that across. I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
I'm a big MMA fan.
Yeah, it's just a little whisper I've heard. Okay. I might be proven incorrect, which isn't the first time. The other one that I've heard, now this is interesting, a bit quirky, that they've been introduced to mindful eating. So, again, I hadn't actually heard the term, but instead of like you and I, if we go to the pub, we have a shelter and we knock down our palmy in about 3 mouthfuls.
And it's gone.
Yeah, they're saying just enjoy the experience and the players to maybe take in the smell, the sense of eating, as opposed to just, when you're cooked after a pre-season training session.
Get whatever you want in.
And just woof it down. So
the act of mindfulness, again, this is a big thing West Coast did in 2018, is about being in the present moment. And it's about your senses. So, touch, feel, which is the same sense, sight, hearing, taste, all that stuff. That's very good, isn't it?
You're looking like some sort of spiritual guru sitting there. I can't take you seriously, Sco, but go on.
So it's about really feeling where you are in the moment. So if we're talking about mindful eating, which I haven't heard that term before, it would mean, as you say, they'd sit down for a Parmigiano and they'd be touching it, they'd be looking at it, they'd be smelling it, they'd be really being aware. And I think the point would be, I think that, mate, you're the one who brought this up.
I did.
I think the point would be so you're not scoffing your meal down and you eat less. Does that sound like what the boys might have been, what the birdies might have been saying?
I think that's the plan, although I did do a function last night. I didn't say anything.
Were you mindfully eating your meal at the function?
But I did watch Luke Jackson, and we had a palmy, and there was some chips and salad, and he just had the salad in about 2 mouthfuls. Then he picked up the palmy and dug all the chips out, so he could eat all the chips by themselves. Then he ate his palmy in about 12 seconds. And I said, mate, you still hungry? He said, I could have another 3 of those. So that was his mindful eating. If that was it, Lukey Jackson, you're a superstar. He just woofs them down.
So do you think some RFIs, if we're looking for RFIs for the Fremantle Football Club, Luke Jackson's mindful eating might need a little bit of room for improvement?
Was it the KPIs for him on that area of the pre-season? Not great, but no, you're right. They're going well. I know you're bullish on them. I think you said before we went away, they could well be 5 from 6.
No, 6-0, top of the ladder
6-0.
after 6 rounds.
Okay, fair enough. And I think the Eagles, obviously there's a derby early on, but the Eagles have got a decent way to start north away.
Yep.
I think they can build early well.
Yeah, I do agree. I think West Coast will win their first 2 games. Freo will win their first 6. Freo will be on top of the ladder after 6 rounds. And West Coast will be around about sort of that, exactly where they'll finish. I think anywhere from 5th till 10th. They'll make their way into the 8 before the season finishes. Just as we finish on Freo and we talk about our mindful eater, Lukey Jackson, I think that's the big question around Freo is how they use that combo. Sean Darcy, Luke Jackson. Where do they play Luke Jackson? Where do they play Sean Darcy? Does having a Rory Lobb was always a forward that
reluctant ruckman
every now and then would do it, or Lloyd Meek would come in and sometimes they'd split Sean Darcy strikes me as a guy that needs to play in the ruck all day. He grinds down opponents. He gets more aggressive as it gets harder. I think as it goes on, he gets better in the game. He doesn't often come out like a Natanui and just blow people out of the game. You bring in a Luke Jackson who. He's not a forward. I don't see him as a forward like a Rory Lobb. Do they split at 50-50? Do they 60-40 at like Gawn and Jackson used to do? I think that's going to be a really interesting question this year.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. I think Sean Darcy's a guy that thrives on hard work. He was a bit injury prone going back 2 or 3 years ago, but I think all things being equal, he should spend probably 70-75% time in the ruck. And I think Luke's one of those players that you can push him inside the centre square to either obviously give Sean a break, but also just change the dynamics if the match is not going the way you want. I think he's more that type of player than 50. I don't think he's a 50-50. No. I don't think it's a split. I think that's going to work. But you're right. I'm still not sure what Luke's best role is. He's been mentioned as a hybrid midfielder.
Well, yeah. So I did a function with him before the Christmas break, or the Christmas party, and a few guys there. Brayshaw was there, and Jackson was there, and I jokingly said, "We're going to see up on a wing this year, mate." And he pretty much said, "Absolutely not. I'll be playing as a forward that chips out in the ruck." That's what he deadpan told me. I'll be very surprised if we saw a lot of him playing on the wing or as a ruckman, which I said last year. It's too hard. The wingers play such an important role in today's game, defensively, attacking. I don't think he has the tank to do that, and that's not knocking him. He's 200 and something centimetres tall.
When you think about someone like Nathan O'Driscoll, who is waiting to blossom into that type of role, he's got the leg speed.
They're not putting him on a wing.
No, exactly. But forward-wise, he's probably got to learn the craft, but tell you what, he's a terrific young kid, and he's got a good attitude. He's laid back. He's loving his time with Sean Darcy. He just is in awe of the bloke, and I think there's the thing about, I was walking out of a function last night and the Dockers supporters asking me how they're going to go. One bloke said to me, if they don't make top 4, it's a failure. I said, well, let's be honest, the AFL, it's just not that simple. No. If you were doing that scenario, then Sydney not making the grand final or winning the grand final, it's a failure for them. They're not that easy to, as you know, 2015, most people thought the next year you're going to get back. It doesn't happen that way. I said, look, if they can play finals and hopefully get a double chance, that'd be great. But
you still have to do it.
Exactly, and you've got a lot of players out of the mix from last year, yes. So there's question marks.
You still, every year, there's a side that everyone says, well, they'll just do that. Like Port Adelaide was the team last year. They had come off being the most successful side in a 5-year stretch. They were more successful than the team at Richmond. They'd won more games.
But without winning a flag.
Correct. And then they come out and they lose their first 6 games in a row. You still have to do it. You still have to be mentally prepared. You have to be aware that Fremantle are going to be hunted this year. They were not hunted last year. People took them lightly to start the year, which is why they started so well. This year, people know they're good. And it changes the dynamic. It's whether or not Freo can put a preseason together, be mentally prepared enough, and have a game plan to execute, just like every other team right now. That's why everyone's flying. Because everyone's got these game plans they've been rolling out for the last three months. Everyone's been training their ass off. There's no team in the AFL that are sitting there going, hopefully it happens. Everyone's working as hard as possible. Round 1 comes, that's when push comes to shove.
And do we still go through the process for opposition sides of looking at the Geelong performance of last year,
absolutely,
and then go, okay, now do we copycat? Do we try to pick their game plan apart to suit ours? Do you use that as a template?
So like Geelong, it just makes me think, what did Geelong do well last year? They were the best defensive side from turnover, so they would defend the turnover really well, and then they would attack the turnover really well. So their turnover game was outstanding, which means honestly, like breaking it right down, they were switched on mentally more than anyone else. The moment the ball turns over, whether it be for you or against you, West Coast used to call it the moment. It's how quickly can you react, and Geelong did that the best. So, although it might be, past a few teams to do what Geelong did, with their forward line, with their midfield,
talent,
with
the talent.
with their talent,
Yeah.
You can't match that, but you can match the moment. You can match reacting. Like anyone can do that. That's why sometimes it doesn't matter who's on your list. It's how you play the game. And so that's what teams will be focusing on. How quickly can you react to turning the ball over? And to be honest, that's not new. That's not a brand new concept. The West Coast have been trying to do that for 10 years. It's something that exists. But whoever can do that the best will end up on top of the ladder. Let's take a little break here. Shelter FootyCast, Mark Reddings, Will Schofield. So that's the little preview we have for West Coast and Freo. We'll get right into that throughout the year. Excited to do it with Mark Reddings. There'll be pretty much Skeet and Scully show for most of this year, unless one of us happens to be going to catch the rerun of the Magic Millions or whatever I might be doing, shopping for more terry towelings.
I'm doing a bucket list moment in the middle of the year.
Are you?
I am. I'm going to London.
Oh,
I'm going to the Ashes test. One test at Lords.
Are ya?
Yeah, one test. Just get over there.
Is this in the works or you've locked it?
Well, I've booked it. I'm assuming the company I've booked it with is reputable and if the tickets are going to be there. Don't you laugh, because I will blow the joint up if it's not. If those
BackChat Studios will be
anyway
put to dust.
So it's just around late June, so around the buy time. But you're going to go over there and a bit like your F1 moment last year.
Junket.
Yeah, exactly. Just
have you got a little junket?
I'm paying full tote, brother.
Okay, well, just putting it out there. We've got a lot of listeners here on the Shelter FootyCast. Anyone would like to sponsor Mark Redding's trip to the Ashes? Just think about some of the content you could create over there. Get in contact with us. You can email us if you've got a company that wants to get behind Mark Reddings. I'll be very happy for it. FootyCast@shelterbrewing.com.au. Who knows? Maybe Shelter wants to send you over there. I don't know, Skate. While we're talking cricket,
yep.
The summer of cricket. South Africa whitewashed them, and
West Indies.
West Indies,
most boring summer of Test cricket. And I say this with total respect for Pat Cummins and the team and what they did, because all you can do is win and win in the manner they did.
Yeah.
But it was a non-competitive summer of Test cricket.
Isn't South Africa meant to be the number 2 Test side
yep,
in the world?
and that was non-competitive.
They couldn't bat.
No, they couldn't. They did. That was their weakness.
I mean, or is that Australia's bowling?
A bit of both, mate. There's a green top in Brisbane, but I love a contest. That's why the Ashes, to me, England's playing such great cricket that will be a great contest, on paper at least.
India as well?
India, yeah, absolutely. India, a huge challenge for Australia, but I'd much rather go to London than go to, Mumbai and try and navigate my way through that.
That would be something I'd get behind. Mark Reddings does Mumbai.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you now. They reckon watching cricket in... I've never been to India. I'm not sure if you have, but they reckon it's an outstanding...
It's a bucket list for me, actually.
It's an experience, yeah. I know Matt Pavlich, I think, did it to go and watch the cricket over there. And, yeah, it's something that if you love your cricket, it's up there. Yours is more the experience, per se.
It's a funny concept that we sit here and go, what a boring summer of cricket. We've just won every game.
But it was.
Imagine if that's your footy team, though. Oh, what a boring season. We just went undefeated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's an interesting concept.
It is, but we don't have the tribal nature about the Australian cricket team as we do for our own footy team. I think that's a given. But yeah, look, the Test summer, well done Australia, outstanding. Dave Warner hit a double century. Not sure he deserved Man of the Series honours on one performance.
Travis Head was very good.
Travis Head, I thought, was probably best on for the series as such, but not to be. India, big challenge. Big Bash, of course, is on now.
Yes, so the Scorchers, top of the ladder.
Top of the ladder, yeah. Beat the Sydney Sixers. Were beaten by the Sydney Sixers. Then knocked over Hobart last night. And what we have got in WA is a golden age of absolute elite all-rounders. You think of Cam Green, who's in the Test team.
Yeah, and $3.2 million in the IPL.
Just giddy up for him. Mitch Marsh is injured at the moment, but we know that he's been outstanding for a long time. Marcus Stoinis has done it, albeit more so on the East Coast with his short-form cricket. But there's a guy called Aaron Hardy who scored 90 last night, unbeaten. He scored 100 in the Sheffield Shield final. I'd be suggesting that he could play Test cricket alongside Cam Green in the next 3 or 4 years.
Really?
Because he's averaging, I think, 27 with the ball, which is pretty reasonable. He's a fast medium, and 44 with the bat in first-class cricket. So he's an absolute talent. And lastly, he's batting at 3 in the Big Bash, which is...
Can you have more than one all-rounder in a Test side?
Ideally not, but if you've got for instance, Cam Green might end up being just a specialist batter. He could bat at 4 or 5 and do very little bowling. That's the talent he has.
Scratchy over the summer, Cam Green.
Yeah, but mate, he didn't get to bat in. Like he had very little time at the crease, so I would put that to one side. I just think Aaron Hardy, a very exciting cricketer, which is, WA's blessed. I mean, you try and think of Australia for so long. When Steve Waugh came around and came into the side, he could bowl some medium paces and bat. He was almost our new all-rounder. But now we've got, as I say, all those players, particularly WA-based, we are blessed with talent. And Aaron Hardy, keep your eye out for him when it comes to a senior selection. Maybe not for a test tour, but certainly in the short-form cricket. Initially, he's on the cusp, put it that way.
19th of January 2023, Mark Readings. Just mark that date down in your calendars. That's the day that Hardy. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Got called by Mark Readings to play the test. Shut up, Skeet. Andrew Ty leads the wickets in the competition. He's taken 22.
Yeah, AJ does change of pace. Wears a bit of a similar...
No, he's a friend of the family, and he's come on. He's actually filled in for you right there.
Yeah.
He sat in your seat.
He's a good man.
And Josh Inglis is third most runs for the comp, 377 after a decent knock last night as well.
A half century, batting beautifully, had a really good Big Bash series. Remember, end of last year, he busted his hand playing golf, and then so he didn't get to play in the T20 World Cup. But he's the guy that, with Alex Carey sort of there, but in obviously test keeper. But he's the next.
Was that
option.
the Snap Golf Club?
Yes, yeah. So he had
brutal.
An injury or two, but he's batting beautifully. The Scorchers, they're missing so many players,
and they're still winning,
and they're still on top of the table. And don't want to say this glibly, but the culture of what the team they have, Adam Voges, what they produce, I think has to go a long way to the performances they put out. Because on paper, there are other teams that have more talent.
That is transcending across all sports, Skeet. Doesn't matter how much talent you are, you have to get out there mentally and perform. So that's the Scorchers going well. The Wildcats, before we left for the break, we're just doing a bit of a Perth wrap here of all the sports. The Wildcats struggling before we went away, but since then they've won 4 of 7 games. They're actually sitting third on the table. They've won... Look, I struggle with this. They've won less games than 4 teams below them, but they're sitting above them because they've played less games. I don't know what basketball's doing. Why don't they just give them 2 points for a win and 0 points for a loss? I don't understand. It's some sort of percentage Duckworth-Lewis Stern system that they're rolling in the NPL. They're going okay.
They're going okay.
Because it was doom and gloom before we left.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure.
Get Hutchie out of there and
they can't
kill
win
the Red Armies. Hey?
They can't win it, though.
Okay.
No, they've got the Sydney Kings coming up. They are the benchmark. They are clearly the best team in the competition by
what about culture?
a margin.
What about culture?
Well, they won the title last year, so the culture must be okay.
Okay. No, I'm just saying the Perth Wildcats successful culture.
Yeah, look, I think they're still a work in progress. I mean, really good against Adelaide. They smashed them open air at RAC
Did you see
Arena.
It? Did you go?
No, I was in the Gold Coast,
Sorry.
but yeah, it was
sellout.
A big success. So. Big tick, kudos to everyone at the Wildcats that worked a treat. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
That makes me. I don't follow basketball. I would want to go to that.
Yeah, no, they do it well. Just not sure that the mix is right for the Wildcats to win the title. Okay. And bear in mind, they've still got a fight. They're in third position, but because Southeast Melbourne knocked over the Jack Jumpers last night, so that helped them. But I think they're a fair way off the best team in the competition at the moment. That's not to say, like, if you're playing footy in July and August, you can make that ground up. But yeah, they're going okay. But the Sydney Kings are the ultimate test. But they've certainly, I think the reliance on Bryce Cotton has lessened a bit, which has helped them.
Thursday the 19th of January, the day that Hardy will play Test cricket within the 3 years, and the Perth Wildcats will not win the flag, according to Mark Readings. The Perth Glory have returned to Perth. Don't look at me like that. Perth Glory have returned to Perth after a long stint away, which is pretty rough what they had to do. Since they've been back, they've won 3, drawn 2, lost 0. So they've been on the bottom of the ladder. They're coming up as well. So, I mean, it's all looking up for the Perth.
They've just had it, like the last couple of seasons, they've had no luck in running with scheduling. And as you know, if you can get some early wins on the board, they're playing catch-up. And they've got a young squad, so and we had Coyne come here, and they're busting their backsides to get a team up and running. I haven't been to a game at Macedonia Park, but I can imagine it'd be a little tribal. And
Dan Const, our producer, went out there. What was it like, Dan? You just yell out without your microphone.
There was a lot of people there for the size of the venue. It was pumped.
Dan reportedly had a very good time out at Macedonia.
Yeah, you can't remember
VIP,
much.
VIP straight to the front. Was asked by the ticket attendant, "Do you have VIP tickets or just normal?" And he just said, "I'm a VIP, straight to the front, thanks."
Mate, it's just about the confidence. It's like going to a nightclub. If you've got that confident looking, and it doesn't
Can
hurt.
you
If
please
you've got,
tell us about going to nightclubs, my friend?
no,
please.
it doesn't hurt if you've got a good looking lady
Hotel
next to you. Hotel Mexicola. You know, it's just got to show confidence when you get to the front of the door.
Okay, I'll just say the
As
date
opposed
again,
to saying-
19th of January.
As opposed to saying Will Schofield, West Coast team, with his premiership medallion hanging out of his top pocket.
Do you want to say that? I've got that around my neck now. That's very good, Skate. Well done. A little sting here, thanks, Dan Const. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, Show the FootyCast. Probably the final big thing that's happening at the moment is the Aussie Open. Just a little wrap around there. Nick Kyrgios pulls out before the tournament, which is huge for tennis in general. Think what you like of him. You like him, you hate him, you sit in the middle, whatever it is. Not having Australia's best tennis player in the Aussie Open is a big deal.
Yeah, the ratings will show that. I mean, him not playing, Ash Barty, of course, not being there. We know that. Novak, his return, has received a pretty good reception. Rafa gets knocked out yesterday.
With that last Aussie Open, it looked like it, the way he reacted.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, he's got an injury. So, but you'd have to think he's, if that not his last, certainly close. His wife is in tears. Everyone loves Rafa. So that's a pity. Novak is set up to win this now. Who have we got next? Alex de Minaur, Tanasi Kokkinakis. He's got Andy Murray later today, which is going to be fascinating. But yeah, the Aussies, let's be honest, we're not going to go too deep, I wouldn't have thought, given the quality. But yeah, and one funny one yesterday was Danielle Collins, who was in a third set tiebreak. She hit a winner, or her opponent missed a passing shot. So Collins led 7-3 in the tiebreak third set. She threw a racket in the air, celebrated. Only one issue. In the Grand Slams, you have to get to 10 points first. So
In the last set,
the tiebreak third set.
Don't tell me she lost.
No, she didn't lose, but she was very embarrassed after falling on the ground and giving it that one. And the chair umpire said to her, "Danielle, it's 10 points. We need to get to 10 points." And then she did laugh it off. She was embarrassed, but
imagine if she lost. Then she wouldn't be laughing. Then that would be not a laughing matter.
No, but anyway. So the tennis is on. I've never been to the Auss Open, but apparently it's a great
record prize pool this year. How much did you know? You're a well-learned man.
I'm a learned man, but not that well-learned.
What do you think it is? Total prize pool for the tournament. I was very
surprised.
Prize pool. It makes it the second highest Grand Slam in the world, behind the US Open.
Men and women combined, you're saying?
I believe so.
In terms of dollars, I'm guessing? Yeah. 5-6 million?
Total prize pool for the Australian Open is $76.5 million.
76 million.
76.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the winners.
Sorry. Total prize pool.
Total prize pool.
I think that's even more. Even if you understood the question that
First
I asked.
He said total prize pool.
No, I'm thinking of what the winners get.
But you're not saying 76.
That's extraordinary.
So the winner,
first round winner.
The winner only gets $3 million.
Yeah, that's
so total is $76 million.
Yeah, so the first round winner or first round loser, you get $50,000, $100,000.
Yeah, a bit of coin. So
good
76.
Money.
That's
no wonder.
And then to have the ratings drop off, I don't know if they'd be too happy with that. Anyway,
no wonder you've got your kids doing tennis lessons.
Yeah, correct. I wish I actually did. I've got them doing soccer. That's one little topic I'd like to touch on before we leave. This is just a shout out to soccer and football around there. My son, 5-year-old son, first year of Auskick or soccer this year.
Yep.
And I thought, well, he can just do both. He'll do a bit of soccer, do a bit of footy. Loves his sport. Been playing soccer as a 4-year-old because it's a lot easier to learn. I've gone to sign him up at the local soccer side, and they said training on a Wednesday, and then they play a game or a mock thing at 9 a.m. on Sunday. Awesome.
No worries.
Auskick. Went to sign him at the local club down around where I live. When is it? 9 a.m. Sunday. Exactly the same time. How do you butcher that so badly as a sport? Either I think it's sport. I think that's on soccer. That's not on AFL. AFL own the landscape of junior participation in this country. So how do you butcher that so badly? Because you lose people.
Yeah. It's one of those ones
and it's double the cost to play soccer.
Is it really?
Yep. Well, it is where I'm asking.
Yeah, is that because it's
there's a training session during the week, whereas Auskick is just the weekend.
So you're suggesting that your young bloke's going to go and play?
I don't know. I'm thinking I might send him down to training during the week in soccer. He's too young to know whatever the game is, and I'll chuck him into the AFL on Sundays.
Whatever he does, just whatever he wants to do.
Exactly right. But he loves soccer.
Oh,
but I'd love him to play footy, but like if he doesn't like it, I couldn't care less. But I can't. I have to choose as a 5-year-old.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, mate, back
the big issues.
Back in the day when I was a kid, it was footy and cricket. That was it. That's all you did. Footy in the winter, cricket in the summer. Thanks for coming.
Well, that probably speaks to the fact that soccer's actually getting a little bit of a foothold here in the country.
Absolutely.
Shelter FootyCast, we're going to finish with a couple of debate items after this. Okay, two things to talk about here to finish the show, Skate. Number one, international test cricket. Is it dead?
No.
I say yes.
No.
After the summer we just copped.
Well, after the summer we copped against, there's a disparity between the best and the rest, and Australia, England, India.
South Africa's number 2 side in the world.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Am I wrong?
No,
right.
I'm saying, but the better sides compared to, say, the West Indies are poor. South Africa are better than what they show. But no, I think you put India, Australia, in India, there'll be big crowds. The Ashes, it's sold out. So it isn't dead. It is certainly an issue with some of the nations. They don't get crowds. South Africa doesn't get crowds. West Indies don't. There are certain countries, but
who does then?
We do.
Australia, England, India, and Pakistan, probably.
Well, not even Pakistan. But
so
those
three sides.
The 3 countries.
International game.
The 3 countries, basically, England, India, Australia, run the game worldwide, particularly India, with the dollars, with the IPL and all they bring to it. So I don't think Test cricket is dead by any means.
It's pretty funny you mentioned the IPL. I mean, for last time I checked, that isn't a test competition.
No, but I'm saying that the Indian money that's involved.
Players are going to have to make the choice between test cricket and playing the short form game if they're not already doing it. Kids like Cam Green, right? He's like you said, got no opportunity to bat over the summer against 2 different nations where he's playing in the Australian side. If he does that again in a couple more series, the media, the population will be on him. Oh, we can't have him. He can't bat. He can't do this. Goes to the IPL, bats for 6 overs, gets his $3 million. Why would you play Test cricket as a player? Why would you do it?
I can guarantee you there will not be a player from the Australian team say, "Oh no, I'm going to forego playing Test cricket for my country and just play IPL."
I disagree. I think that's an old school view, and I think
ask them. You ask the cricketers; they'll all say Test cricket. Massive priority, but they can do both. That's why it's set aside in April.
There's more and more competitions coming in. I think it's dead, Skate. Maybe not right this
it's
second,
not dead.
But it's dying.
Well, how's it dying if it's a sellout, the Ashes series in England? How's it dead?
Well, it's not dead in England, but we're in Australia, aren't we?
Well, it's not dead here. The Ashes
wasn't
series
a sellout here.
In Australia.
Do you think it'll be a sellout everywhere if England come here?
Yeah.
It'll be sellout everywhere we
go? We had COVID last year, remember, and there were issues. So, no,
okay,
I agree there's certain nations that it's really hard to get interest going, but for the big 3, it is still big.
I think, put it this way, I think it's quite sick. I think it's been admitted to hospital and they're trying to treat it. They're trying to put a bit of medication in, and I don't know. It's a clinical trial. We don't know if it's going to work or not.
Yeah, but you're not a cricket man.
That doesn't. Do I have to be a cricket man to think cricket's awesome?
No, but
I love sport.
You think cricket's dead?
Yeah,
Test cricket is dead.
No, sick.
Yeah, well,
not be dead,
in elements of it, but there's. Look, I think Test cricket at its best is still... Mate, people don't want to keep watching short form cricket. It is the Big Bash. Even now we're going...
you could be right.
Week in, week... Yeah, there's a balance that's required.
All right. I think I'll say that I was right there. Mason Cox on Twitter says, thoughts on getting a live cross to players in pre-season AFL games on the bench, on the ground. Do you think that's a good idea to get live interactions with players at a minimum in the pre-season part of the AFL?
I've done that. You've done that with me in the waffle with Seven. And I know the VFL does it. Look, to be honest with you, it's nice to do. You might get a little nugget, but you don't get a heap out of them. But yeah, it's a point of difference. And yeah.
So would you say yes to it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can get access to a player, even if it's for 90 seconds, to say, and you've obviously been watching a player run with, say, another player or his defence work has been terrific. You can ask a question specific to that. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it adds a lot.
I want to try and debate you, but my argument would be it doesn't add anything. But I'm very much in the camp of yes, do it.
Exposure.
It's not hard. But the argument that players would say, oh, it's distracting or this and that. There'd be a few guys that you couldn't talk to, but most guys, if you chucked a headset on and when it happens in the waffle, we get 2 questions, maybe.
Yeah.
Because you know, as media people, you're worried about distracting them from the game as well. You know, you respect the fact they're working, but I think in the preseason you could get a decent chat.
Absolutely.
But I think the biggest issue is you don't actually get much. If you did it in the NFL, right, you'd have someone teeing off their opponent, saying how shit he is and giving you plenty. AFL would be like, oh, we're just taking it 1 week at a time.
1 minute, 1 quarter at a time. Yeah, no, you're right. And that's why the NFL's so good. That's why we've, when you look at NFL films and what they do, and the access and the ability of the American athlete to embrace it, as opposed to Australians that are a little bit more shy, modest, humble.
Got to be honest, don't want to talk about the NFL. Skeet
Vikings. The Vikings are gone, but the 49ers are still alive.
Oh, seriously, it's the weakest support. I was trying to think who even went for.
49ers, mate.
Of course.
Purdy is the new man.
Purdy.
Jimmy G gone, and put it this way, we've got the Cowboys this weekend. I'm not saying we're going to win it, but I can tell you what, we're more a chance than the Vikings. The Vikings have been rolled by the New York Giants.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was bloody disappointing and I was pissed off and I don't want to talk about it. That's it, done and dusted. Shelter FootyCast. See you later. Shelter's Summer of Sour. Don't forget about that. You can win a Victor mower. Don't worry about the rest of it. I'm up and about this Victor mower. I tell you what, get on there, check it out. You can find that on their website. You can send us an email, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au. Follow us on socials, Shelter FootyCast. Skeet, looking forward to a big year this year, mate.
Can't wait. Been a lot of fun. We're going to have some footy chat. We're going to get right into it, and nice to be back in town.
See you next week.